joins us from Maryland. But Mary is the director of the Center for Human Dignity at Family Research Council, where she works with other pro-life advocates on policies surrounding life and human dignity. So a lot of what we talked about last night involving the church's vision for human dignity. Her work has been published in numerous publications. She previously led the Archdiocese public policy work in DC and directed their Department of Life Issues. She received her master's in education from Notre Dame. She also graduated from the University of Notre Dame for undergrad, where she majored in political science and philosophy. And it was there that she played basketball for the Fighting Irish for their 2010 to 2011 National Championship runner-up team. So we're excited to have Mary with us. We're very grateful to her for driving. She brought her two beautiful children with her, Joseph and Pia. So they're here as well. So please join me in welcoming Mary.
Thank you so much. That was probably the best intro I've ever gotten. I'm super excited to be with you guys today. Have you guys been having fun so far? Yeah. Awesome. So I never got to go to summer camp other than basketball summer camp, which is very different, and wasn't sleepaway. It was just at home. I was very much a homebody and like a little bit nervous about leaving my parents overnight. So never did that, but when I was in 4th grade, Parent Trap, the Lindsay Lohan version, came out, and I watched it probably 100 times that summer, so you might say I'm a bit of an expert on summer camp. Have any of you seen Parent Trap, or is this like completely dating myself? You've seen it? Has anyone here been sent to the isolation cabin yet? Or we're all still here? Tough crowd today. Okay, all right, well, it's a great movie. I highly recommend it. So today we're going to speak about the church's vision for women in the world. So before we start that though, I want to make sure everyone's awake. I see some yawns out there. So first, if I could just have everyone stand up, put down everything in your hands. I'm probably not going to say anything that's interesting enough to take notes on, so feel free to just listen or take notes if I do strike you as that interesting. First, okay, every time I cross my right hand over my left hand, I'm gonna need you to clap, okay? So here we go. Yeah, pretty easy, right? Oh, guys, didn't quite cross them. Okay, so if I don't cross, you don't clap, okay? We ready? Oh, got you, Batman. Here we go. Oh, go again. No cheating over there. We gotta clap. Come on, come on. Oh, come on, girls. All right, take a seat. That is just to guarantee that I get a standing ovation. So glad we started off on the right foot. So you all should have a sticky note in your hand. And before we start talking about the church's vision for women in the world, if you don't have a sticky note, I've got them. I can bring you one. Anyone else? All right. So before we start talking about the church's vision for women in the world, I just want you to take a second and write on that sticky note, what makes women unique? What makes women unique? And then when you're finished writing that, if you could just come up and put it on the podium. Just walk on up and put it on that podium. I've heard some of the questions you guys have been asking, and they sound very thoughtful. I'm not looking for anything brilliantly philosophical here. So just what makes women unique? So don't stress over it. All right, who's gonna be the first one to put it up on the podium? Yeah.
She wrote 3 things. Okay, she said you wrote 5 things.
Wow, okay, do I have everyone's? This might be the first time that I've ever spoken to a group of high schoolers where literally everyone got the answer right. So let's get a round of applause for that. Can we do an actual round of applause? Yeah. There we go, nice. Okay, so what makes us unique is that because written in our very DNA is the ability to be a mother. That ability shapes the way that we look at everything in this world, that it changes our view of everything. And did you guys know that the uterus is the only organ in either the male or female body that is actually made for the use of another person? The uterus is not made for use by your body. It's actually made for the use of a baby. And how beautiful is that, that written within a woman's very body is this vision towards another. Now, in 2024, women have more opportunities than ever. And in the words of Beyonce, who runs the world?
Girls. Sorry, another song.
But as girls have shattered glass ceilings and expectations left and right, in America, we face a culture that has yet to make space for women to be who they were authentically created to be. Occasionally, culture shapes laws, but more often than not, it's the other way around. On June 23rd, 1972, Title IX was enacted. Who knows what Title IX is? Anyone? So how many people here like playing sports? Yeah, how many people here want to go to college or like the idea of going to college? All right, so Title IX was enacted to ensure that there was no discrimination based on sex in education programs. So when I went to Notre Dame, we went to the national championship, and on the way there, the women who were in the first graduating class from Notre Dame wrote us emails. And they were like, hey, good luck, you know, we can't wait for you to win. We lost, but they were excited for us to be there anyway. And, you know, one of the things that they said repeatedly was, when we were in college, we had to wear the boys' worn out uniforms. Or I remember the first time we got to play actual girls basketball. Title IX made sure that there were equal opportunities in the education field for women. And when women have equal opportunities in education, naturally, what comes out of that is women having equal opportunities in the workforce. Well, that's what should have happened. We should have had a workforce that was flooded with women who had just graduated from college, had played college sports, developed those leadership capabilities, had done, you know, whatever else that they wanted to do throughout that time to develop into strong leaders. And those women should have gone to the workforce, and the workforce should have been reimagined to encompass women in their totality, which includes their capacity to be mothers. Because every woman is called to be a mother. Sometimes women are called to be mothers physically. Other times, women are called to be mothers spiritually. In fact, every woman is called to be a mother spiritually. But the workforce reimagination never took place, because just 7 months after Title IX was passed, the Supreme Court decided Roe v. Wade. Who knows what Roe v. Wade did? Yeah, so Roe v. Wade and its companion Doe v. Bolton allowed for an unborn child to be killed in the womb up until the moment of birth in every state across America. And so instead of the workplace being reimagined to encompass women in their totality, the workplace became a place where women were expected to become just like men if they wanted to be there. Where Roe was seen as the fix, Roe and birth control were seen as the fix to women in the workplace. Instead of re-envisioning things, instead of recognizing, hey, you know what, maybe 9 to 5 doesn't actually work well for women with children. Instead of seeing that, you know, there were some other changes that needed to take place, that maybe maternity leave needed to be a thing, that maybe, you know, working from home needed to be a thing. These things never took place because the out was Roe v. Wade and birth control. And if you think that this isn't true, I want to show you the video, quick video, of Busy Phillips. How many people know who Busy Phillips is? All right, well, she's an actress, and she's an actress who has been very vocal about her support for abortion. And at a rally in front of the Supreme Court, here's what she said.
Where actress Busy Phillips gave an intense speech, she argued, or rather screamed, that she would not have her home, her car, her career, or her family if it was not for her abortion at the age of 15.
I have all of this, all of it, because I was allowed bodily autonomy at 15.
It's a very sad view of the world, where a woman would have to, in order to have a home, in order to have a family, in order to have a career, a woman would have to sacrifice her children. But in this rejection of physical motherhood that took place during this time in the workplace, what followed was a rejection of spiritual motherhood. And so what is spiritual motherhood? That's something that we, I think, want to explore a little bit, because I feel like sometimes it can sound kind of, I don't know, abstract and like something that you couldn't really connect with. Any ideas on what spiritual motherhood is?
It's like women have this ability to like nurture and care for others, even if it's not like their own child, but they can still like care for them, like, and their spiritual needs in a way that they would care for the spiritual needs and like mental emotional needs of their own children, like, or if they have physical children.
Absolutely, yeah. So in this world where natural motherhood was rejected, where physical motherhood was rejected, what followed was a rejection of this desire to nurture and to mentor and to help build other women up, which is what spiritual motherhood involves. And how many people here have seen The Devil Wears Prada? Okay, I'm kind of dating myself with all these references, so I apologize for that. So The Devil Wears Prada is this story. It's a pretty funny movie. It follows this aspiring journalist. Her name is Andy Sachs, and she's trying to make her way in the world. And she lands a job at Runway magazine, and Runway is meant to be Vogue, basically. But Runway is led by this self-centered, malicious woman named Miranda Presley, who's played by Meryl Streep. And during the time that Andy works for Miranda, who has everything someone could want. She has all the cars, she has a mansion, she has 2 kids, she has a husband, they have a terrible marriage, but that's not really portrayed too much in the film. What Miranda is portrayed as is the CEO girl boss. She has made it. But during this time that Andy works for her, instead of becoming a person who builds other women up, she morphs into Miranda. She becomes someone who's willing to cut others down and cut others out to get ahead. And I want to play a clip really quickly of what I think is the best scene from this movie. And this is where Miranda tells Andy that she sees herself in her. Let's take a look.
I see a great deal of myself in you. You can see beyond what people want and what they need, and you can choose for yourself. I don't think I'm like that. I couldn't do what you did to Nigel, Miranda. I couldn't do something like that. I didn't have a choice. No, you chose. You chose to get ahead. You want this life? Those choices aren't necessary. But what if this isn't what I want? I mean, what if I don't want to live the way you live? Oh, don't be ridiculous, Andrea. Everybody wants this. Everybody wants to be us.
Everybody wants to be us. The rest of us are rooting for Andy to walk away, right? You can all, even not having seen the whole movie, we can all get this sense of, she's gotta leave. This stinks. This is not, maybe the CEO part is awesome, but the way that she treats people, the way that she cuts people down, that's not what she wants. And so Andrea leaves, and it awakens in us this recognition that we all want women to be able to achieve, but we also want them to be able to do it in a way that embraces authentic femininity. Because think of who that CEO could be instead. She could have been someone who took another girl under her wing, who treated her with dignity and respect, who focused on someone other than herself and seeing someone else's problems and helped that person grow. She could have embraced spiritual motherhood. But when we reject our physical femininity, the cycle continues into a rejection of spiritual femininity, which is what we have seen a lot. As women, we're meant to be champions of one another. We're meant to be champions of peace, of love, of joy, and of kindness. And we're meant to lead not only by words, but also by example. And so to demonstrate this, I need everyone to stand up. All right, we're gonna play another game. Okay, so you need to put everything down. Okay, so when I say touch your head, you're gonna touch your head. Okay? When I say touch your shoulders, touch your shoulders. When I say touch your knees, you're gonna touch your knees. Stop, let's go, here we go. Touch your head, shoulders, knees. Okay, now if I say touch your knees, but I touch my shoulders, you gotta stay on your knees, right? Okay, here we go. Head, shoulders, knees, shoulders, knees. Ooh, how many people went ahead? A lot. All right, now it's gonna be a competition. All right, last man standing wins. Here we go. Last woman standing wins. Here we go. Head, shoulders, knees, shoulders, knees. All right, if you messed up, you gotta sit down. Here we go. Head, shoulders, head, knees. Oh, no cheating over here and not watching. I can see. Head, shoulders, knees, knees, shoulders, knees, knees, shoulders, head, knees. Oh. Who's up still? All right, let's get you to the front. Let's get you to the front. Here we go.
Wait, so you can't look down?
It's between you and God. It's between
You can't look down?
Okay. No, you can't look down. Here we go. You ready? Head, shoulders, knees, knees. Oh.
This is the reaction.
Listen, here we go. We've got four left. Knees.
Oh!
I flinched again.
I saw you
All right,
flinch,
two.
but I didn't fully
I did
get it.
this. Does that count?
Who did I get?
Wait, just to be clear, I did this. Does that count?
Oh, yeah, you're down. You're my winner. Great job. What's your name?
Tiana.
Gianna. love that name. Great job. All right, so when our actions and our words don't match, it's problematic, right? People follow our actions more than they follow our words. But the most impressive thing is if we can bring them in harmony with one another. And I want to tell the stories of two women who both did this, both embraced spiritual motherhood, whose words and actions followed each other. The first, they're actually two girls who I met when I was in college. I worked at a summer home on the beach for kids who were blind and physically disabled. And at this home, I had the privilege of meeting these two beautiful young women. Their names are Audrey and Alex. And Audrey and Alex, both, they're sisters, and they both had this terrible disease that allowed their bodies to progress and develop normally until they were about 14. And at 14, their bodies began to shut down. So gradually, they would lose their sense of sight, their sense of hearing, their ability to talk, and eventually their ability to breathe. So these girls were going up the hill of Calvary. But they were both so filled with joy. And they were sisters, both of them had this disease. One was 15, so she was about a year into the regression, and the other was 13, so she was not yet hitting the regressive stage. And the older one, her name was Audrey, she had reached the point where the only words she could say anymore were "love you." And she would sort of shuffle from place to place because walking had become very challenging. And each person she would see, she would reach out her hand and she would grab theirs and she would just say, "Love you, love you." And it was such a beautiful witness. You know, this girl she was losing everything physically. And the one thing she wanted people to know was that she still loved them. And obviously, the memory is very moving. So Audrey had reached a point where she was having seizures as a result of this disease. And her sister Alex knew what Audrey was going through, but Alex did not know that she also had the disease. And her parents didn't want her to know this because they didn't want her to be afraid of what was coming in the future. So one day, we were out on this outing with everyone. We went to a park on the boardwalk in Wildwood, New Jersey, and we had ridden lots of rides, and Audrey had gone with us on all of the things, and Alex was there right beside her, making sure her sister could do all of the things, making sure her sister, who could only say "love you," felt loved. And on the way home, likely as the result of the combination of heat and what was going on in Audrey's body, she started to have a seizure. And these seizures were very, very physically violent. Her body would flail. She wasn't able to control any part of it. And her sister was there. And so one of the other counselors asked if I would take her sister off to the side so that she wouldn't watch her sister going through this. And her sister Alex grabbed my hand, and I'll never forget what she said. She said, "I don't want to leave her." She said, I wish that Audrey did not have this disease. I wish I had it instead." The beauty of that sacrifice, of that willingness to take another's suffering, of that willingness to show how much she loved, is something that has changed my life forever. I think of those two little girls probably once a week. When there's something that I don't want to do, when there's something that, I see someone else struggling with and I don't want to step in to help them. When there's a time where I see that someone is getting kicked around by, other people who think that they're cooler or, they're being poked fun at, and I don't want to step in, I think of those two girls who would have given anything to take away each other's suffering. What a beautiful example of spiritual motherhood from two girls, just 13 and 15. The other example is one that probably won't make me cry, but it's no less beautiful. And that is the example of Nellie Gray. Nellie Gray was a very, very successful businesswoman. She was an attorney. She previously worked in the Women's Army Force in World War II. And then following that, she became an attorney for the government. And in 1973, when Roe v. Wade was decided, Nellie Gray was a single woman living in DC, working as an attorney for the federal government. She probably had a great job. She probably had a great pension. She had made it success-wise. But Nellie knew that this decision in Roe v. Wade could not go unresponded to. She knew that someone had to stand up for the unborn children. And so Nellie gathered a group of about 9 pro-lifers at her house, and she said, you know what? We are going to march. This decision is not going to go by unnoticed. And she promised that there would be 20,000 people who would come to DC in the middle of winter to be a voice for the unborn. And so the March for Life was born, and Nellie Gray dedicated her life to it. St. Teresa Benedicta of the Cross, also known as Edith Stein, wrote, "Women have ears for the softest and most imperceptible voices." Perhaps Nellie had better hearing than most. She became a mama bear, and after all, her cubs had no voice at all. Motivated by her love for God and her love of neighbor, Nellie Gray was known for her energy. She was a fierce negotiator, not necessarily always warm to people she was negotiating with. Her response to any suggestion of a concession on the life issue was no exceptions, no compromise. For the unborn, no child could be left behind because she viewed them all as her own. She truly embraced spiritual motherhood. Her interactions with the DC police surrounding the March for Life were always professional, but always feisty. She was a woman who never backed down. No one was going to tell her she could not stand up for what was right. Nellie promised that we would march until Roe v. Wade was overturned, and she died before she could see it happen. But in 2022, the Supreme Court overturned Roe. It was the feast of John the Baptist, was an unborn child, and the first person to recognize the presence of Christ on earth. It also happened to be Nellie Gray's birthday. If you think for 1 minute that that was a coincidence, think again. I'm certain in paradise they were celebrating both the overturn of Roe and the birthday of the mother of the pro-life movement. Nellie had no biological children, but her embracement of spiritual motherhood was evident to all those who knew her. Who else would have led thousands year after year in the rain or snow? Who else would have faced bomb threats as she did in the 90s? Who else would have led a fight that everyone else thought was a lost cause? Only a mom. The church's vision for women is to embrace motherhood. And of course, the best vision of motherhood is the Blessed Mother. I think we need to be clear here. The Blessed Mother isn't just some sweet little lady who sits on the sidelines. She's a woman of action. She's a woman you'd want to be best friends with because she's always there making you a better person, and she's always there standing up for you in the face of really anything. At the wedding feast of Cana, the party is about to end. They're about to run out of wine. And I'm sure that this was going to embarrass the mother and father of the bride. They would probably have been mortified. But to be clear, they probably didn't actually need more wine, right? The party could have gone on, they would have been fine. It just wouldn't have been quite as much fun, and it would have been embarrassing. And so the Blessed Mother ran to her son, and she asked him to perform a miracle. She knows that if he performs this miracle, this will kick off his ministry. She knows that as part of that ministry, she too will suffer, because after all, Simeon told her, a sword will pierce your heart. She knew, but she was focused on others, and she was focused on making sure their life had a little more joy. That's the church's vision for women in this world, to tap into that innate ability to focus on others, sacrifice for others, and do whatever Jesus tells you, which was the key at Cana. And far from limiting the place of women in this world, this vision necessitates the presence of women in all areas of life. Do whatever he tells you doesn't put women in a box. It expands their horizons to paths previously unthinkable. John Paul II affirms this beautifully in his letter to women. How many of you have read that? Great, that's perfect, because now I can get to explain it. So in this letter to women, John Paul II, who was Pope when I was growing up and was just totally awesome, he thanks like literally every version of women you could think of. He starts off and he says, you know, I want to thank women who are mothers. I want to thank women who are wives. I want to thank women who are daughters, women who are sisters, women who work. I want to thank women who are consecrated. I want to thank every woman simply for being a woman. He talks about how the fact that we are women enriches the world's understanding and helps us to make human relationships more honest and more authentic. He recognized that women have contributed just as much to history as men and have most of the time done so in even more challenging circumstances. And he goes on to lament the fact that women are often valued more for what they look like than for their skill or their professionalism, their intellectual abilities, their deep sensitivity, and their very dignity. This is the challenge that we face today. We are called to transform the culture. We are called to take head on a world that values women more for what they look like than for who they are. We can look at Instagram or TikTok or whatever other social media platform I'm not cool enough to even know about, and we can conform to the culture. We can subject ourselves to standards of success, of timelines and goals that tell us we've made it as a woman. Sometimes these standards are rooted in what the world thinks, and sometimes they're rooted in what we think. I know for me, that standard, I thought, you know, what I'm going to do with my life, what will be a success as a woman, I'm going to graduate college, I'm going to get married, and I'm going to have 5 kids right away. Guess what? God had a really different plan for me. One that included a lot of really awesome things. But it wasn't getting married right out of college and having 5 kids. And it was recognizing that that didn't mean I was a failure. That was part of me embracing my true femininity. For other friends of mine who did follow the path of college, marriage, kids, it was recognizing that not working for a Fortune 500 company didn't mean that they were a failure. It's recognizing that God has an individualized plan for each of us as women. And that as part of that plan, each of us is called to figure out exactly what he wants us to do. And some people have this great gift that God has given them where from the moment that they were 4 years old, they knew they were going to become a heart surgeon. And then they go do it. And others are like me and they change their major 5 times in college and then they leave and they're like, ooh, what should I do with my life? And their parents are like, really? But sometimes God tells us our plan one baby step at a time. And part of being a woman is being willing to sit with him in that uncertainty and being willing to trust that he is leading our lives in a good direction. There's no doubt that some of you are called to be doctors, lawyers, teachers, sisters, accountants, engineers, astronauts, members of the armed forces, or whatever other professions that haven't even been invented yet, or that I don't even know of. And in those professions, you have the opportunity to embrace your true femininity, to embrace motherhood, whether physical or spiritual, to be a person who is a champion of other women, who is there to stand up for what is right, to pick up the little guy, to stop the gossip, to stop the comparison game. That's what really plagues our culture so much right now. We have all of these social media platforms where there's just picture after picture after picture, and how could you not compare? How could you not look at one and think, oh gosh, do I measure up to her? Am I as funny as her? Is my life as wonderful as hers? That's not what God wants for you. What he wants for you is a recognition that you are his child and he has a plan specific for you. And that plan begins now. This is where it starts. This is where it continues. It started when you were born, but it continues here. We need to recognize that when we reject our own femininity it's often because of wounds in our past. A lack of self-worth, a fear of the future, a fear of being different, or perhaps a deeper fear, a fear from physical or sexual harm that was perpetrated against us. The devil often uses these wounds to lead us into sin. And I want to be clear here. Often because women are not as strong physically, acts of violence, both physical and sexual, are perpetrated against them. And these are not sins for the woman. Someone needs to be held accountable for those, but it is not the woman. But the pain and suffering that comes from those, if it's not healed, it can transform your heart into a hard place. We need to seek healing for those wounds. Because when we do, we have the opportunity to transform others and to use that pain and suffering for good. We need to turn all of these things over to the Blessed Mother. She stomps on the head of Satan. Mother Teresa tells us we should ask Mary, keep me in your most pure heart. And when we do, we too can stomp on the head of Satan. And instead of our pain and suffering leading us to sin, our pain and suffering can lead us to greater communion with one another and with Christ on the cross. Saint Faustina said, I know well the greater and more beautiful the work is, the more terrible will be the storms that rage against it. Femininity and motherhood, both physical and spiritual, the church's vision for women is under attack. I'm so glad that we have women like you to fight for it. I want to end with one final game. As women, we are meant to be champions of one another, and we're meant to hold on to one another. So if you could all stand up again, but this time we're going to form a circle. Can we form a circle? You guys know what a circle is, right?
No, I don't.
Or
Is it like
that?
I'm homeschooled. I don't know what a circle is. This is not a circle. That's a lie.
This is definitely not a circle, so get concerned.
Is the rectangle okay?
We can do an oval. We can do an ovalist. All right, just so you have a girl who's standing next to you. We've got a gap here, so we're going to need to squish in a little bit. Okay, so I need one of you to put out your hand, everyone to put out your right hand like you're holding a pizza that I would be about to drop if I were taking this around the restaurant. Okay, and I need you to hold out your other hand and put down a pointer finger and put it in the palm of the person's next to you's hand.
Sorry, I have
Has anyone played this game before?
No, I feel bad for
Okay,
Sarah though.
well, this is a fun game. So every time I say the word woman, the person whose finger is in the palm is going to try to pull their finger up, and the person who has the palm is going to try to grab the finger. Okay? So let's just practice.
No, come give me your finger back.
Oh gosh. Woman.
I didn't move my hand up. I was too busy trying to catch your hand.
I need a little bit of coordination. Alright, here we go. There was once a really wonderful woman named Mary. She loved the Lord with all of her heart and was the essence of what it meant to be wise, whimsical, and womanly. Womanly counts. Any verse. There's only so many times you can just say woman. You can just say woman. Mary followed God's example for her life. She didn't weigh in on what it meant to be a woman. After God's heart, she simply said yes. Well, women. I don't know if that one counts. Even thinking about this sometimes causes really faithful women to feel anxious. But Mary completely trusted God's will for women. Now, specifically for her. And because of this, she became the mother of God. What a girl! What a woman. Can you imagine what kind of commitment to womanhood that would require? Try to follow Mary's example in your life. Follow her femininity. Trust her, her love, and her willingness to be a woman for others. Well done, women. Sit down.
I don't consider it.